abandoned and lonely until a human found her. Sci-Fi, HFY full story. The moon was small, cold, and almost forgotten. It drifted around a dead planet that no one visited anymore. Long ago, ships had come here, voices had filled the air, and lights had shone across the surface. Now there was only silence, broken metal, and shadows. Luma lived there alone. She moved carefully through the ruins of the old station, her bare feet quiet on the dust-covered floor. The metal beneath her was cracked and weak, but she knew where it was safe to step. She had learned every path, every broken wall, every hidden corner over many lonely cycles. The station had once been a home for her people. She could still see signs of their lives everywhere. Faded symbols on the walls, small rooms where families once rested, long halls where voices once echoed. Now, those voices lived only in her memory. Luma was not old, but she felt ancient. Loneliness had that effect. She carried a small bag made from torn fabric and wire. Inside were pieces of food packs, old tools, and a glowing stone she kept for comfort. The stone was warm and soft with light. It reminded her of her mother. Her parents were gone. So were her friends. So was everyone she had ever known. She did not remember the attack clearly. She had been young, hiding when the alarm screamed. Ships had filled the sky. Fire had fallen. Screams had followed. Then silence. When she came out, the world was empty. Since then, Luma survived. She learned how to find water from frozen pipes. She learned how to open sealed doors. She learned how to stay hidden when strange machines woke up for no reason. She learned how to live without hope. Still, every night she looked at the stars. She wondered if anyone else was out there. She wondered if anyone would ever come. Most days she believed the answer was no. On this day, everything changed. Luma was inside the lower section of the station, sorting through broken crates. Her sharp ears caught a sound that did not belong. It was distant, deep, and shaking. At first she thought it was the station shifting again. That happened sometimes. Then the sound grew louder. The ground trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. Old lights flickered and died. Luma froze. She pressed herself against the wall, her heart pounding fast. She listened carefully. The sound was not coming from inside the station. It was coming from above, from the sky. She rushed toward a broken window and looked out. A bright line of fire cut through the dark sky. Something large and metal was falling fast. It spun out of control, trailing smoke and sparks. The object slammed into the surface not far from the station. The impact sent a shockwave across the moon. Luma stumbled and fell to the ground. For a long moment, everything was still again. Then she heard another sound. A distant explosion, smaller, sharper. Her breath became shallow. No ships came here, not anymore. That was the rule of this place. Anyone who came before never stayed. She stood slowly and backed away from the window. Her instincts screamed danger. Visitors meant death. Visitors meant loss. She considered running deeper into the ruins. There were places even machines could not reach. She had hidden there before, but curiosity pulled at her. She peeked out again. Smoke rose from the crash site, dark against the stars. Small fires burned across the surface. A ship, not a warship. She could tell it was too small, too broken. Her hands shook. Someone was inside that ship. She felt something stir inside her chest. Fear mixed with something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. She hated that feeling. Hope always hurt. Luma moved through the station quickly, using hidden paths to reach the surface exit. She stayed low, careful not to make noise. The cold air outside hit her skin, but she did not slow down. The crash site was not far. She climbed over rocks and broken metal, keeping her body close to the ground. The smell of smoke filled the air. As she got closer, she could see the ship clearly. It was cracked open along one side. Parts of it glowed from heat. A faint light blinked near the front. She stopped behind a tall piece of wreckage and watched. Minutes passed. Then she saw movement. A figure pushed against the broken metal from inside the ship. A human figure. Luma had seen humans before, only in old recordings left behind by her people. They were known as travelers, builders, survivors. They were also known as dangerous. The human struggled and finally fell out of the ship onto the ground. He lay there unmoving. Luma held her breath. She waited for him to stand up and pull out a weapon. She waited for shouting or signals. None came. Slowly, the human moved. He rolled onto his side and groaned. His movements were weak and slow. He was injured. Luma's mind raced. This was her chance to leave. She could run back to the ruins and hide until he either left or died. But something stopped her. The human was alone. She knew what that felt like. She took one careful step forward. The human did not notice. She took another. A small rock shifted under her foot and made a sound. The human froze. He slowly turned his head. His eyes met hers. For a long moment, neither moved. Luma expected fear or anger. Instead, the human looked surprised, tired, confused. He did not raise a weapon. His hands stayed on the ground. He spoke. She did not understand the words, but his voice was calm, low, careful. Luma tilted her head, watching his face. She searched for signs of danger. She saw pain, exhaustion, and something else, relief. The human slowly pushed himself up to sit. His movements were slow and careful. He winced as he touched his side. He pointed to himself and said a word, a name. Aaron. Luma did not respond. She stayed where she was, half hidden by shadows. Aaron looked around, taking in the broken moon, the ruins in the distance, the empty sky. His face fell when he realized where he was. He spoke again, more softly this time. Luma stepped back without thinking. Fear rushed through her. The memories of fire and loss burned in her mind. Aaron noticed her reaction and stopped talking. He raised one hand slowly, palm open, showing he meant no harm. Luma's heart pounded. No one had spoken to her in so long. The sound of a voice felt strange. She wanted to run. She wanted to stay. She took a step back, then another. Her foot slipped on loose dust and she nearly fell. Aaron reacted without thinking. He reached out slightly as if to help, then stopped himself. That moment changed everything. He was careful. Luma stared at him. She had never seen an outsider be careful before. She took a deep breath and did something she had not done in years. She stepped into the light. Aaron's eyes widened slightly. He took in her small frame, her worn clothes, the way she held herself ready to flee at any moment. He spoke again, gently. Luma did not understand the words, but she understood the tone. She pointed to herself. Luma. The name felt strange in the open air. Aaron nodded slowly, repeating it. They stood there in silence, two lonely beings on a dead moon. Suddenly, a low hum filled the air. Luma's body tensed. She knew that sound. Her eyes snapped toward the ruins. The old systems were waking up. Something had noticed the crash. Luma looked back at Aaron. Fear flashed across her face. Aaron followed her gaze. He saw the distant lights flicker to life. He heard the hum grow louder. He did not understand the danger yet, but he knew enough to read her fear. Luma turned and ran toward the station. After a brief moment of hesitation, Aaron pushed himself up and followed, limping, wounded, but unwilling to be left alone. Behind them, deep within the ruins, ancient machines began to move again. Aaron and Luma moved quickly through the broken halls of the station. Dust swirled around them, catching the faint light of flickering lamps. The air smelled of metal, old circuits, and fire from the crash outside. Luma led the way, her small hands brushing along the walls to guide them through familiar paths. Aaron limped, holding his side carefully. Each step caused pain, but he refused to slow down. He needed to keep up. The fear in Luma's eyes reminded him that she had survived so long alone, and he would not abandon her. The station was alive with quiet noises. Old machines whirred and clanked. Some lights blinked erratically. Luma ducked under a low arch and Aaron followed, his eyes scanning for movement. Every shadow seemed like it could hide danger. She could not explain to him why she feared even the walls themselves, but he did not need words to understand the tension. Finally, they reached a room with a faint glow from an old terminal. Luma stepped inside and closed the heavy metal door behind them. She leaned against it, breathing heavily. Aaron slid to the ground and pressed a hand to his side, wincing at the pain. Neither spoke for a moment. Then Aaron looked at her and pointed to the door, then to himself. He tried to form words that would reassure her. His accent was strange, but his gestures were clear. Luma studied him, her expression unreadable. She had learned long ago not to trust easily. A sudden vibration shook the floor. Luma jumped. Aaron grabbed her arm to steady her. The station moaned as if it remembered something from a long-forgotten past. Luma closed her eyes, remembering the day she had been left alone. The memory was sharp and painful. Aaron's gaze followed her every movement. He noticed the scars, the small cuts, the way she flinched at every sound. He realized she had survived in ways he could not imagine. And yet, here she was, fragile but moving forward. The terminal flickered. Symbols she had seen only in old recordings flashed on the screen. Aaron leaned closer, trying to understand, but the words made no sense. Luma shook her head. She had learned to read the remnants of her people, but even she did not fully understand them now. Then came the sound. A soft, mechanical whine growing louder. Luma's eyes widened. She grabbed Aaron's hand, pulling him toward a narrow passage. He followed, trusting her instincts more than the faint lights around them. The hum grew into a roar. Lights outside flickered and dimmed. Dust rained down from the ceiling. Luma whispered something in her language, fast and sharp. Aaron did not understand, but the tone carried urgency. They emerged into a larger hall, one that had once been a central hub. Broken consoles lined the walls. Rusted wires dangled like vines. The hum was deafening now. Machines activated, their movements erratic, searching. Luma stopped. She pressed herself against a column, her eyes scanning. Aaron mirrored her position. Their breaths came fast. Luma whispered again. Aaron shook his head. He could not understand, but he understood the meaning, danger. Suddenly, a shadow moved across the hall. Small drones, remnants of the old war, activated and started scanning. Their red eyes glowed, sweeping the area. Luma froze. Aaron's instincts took over. He grabbed a metal pipe from the floor, ready to defend her. The drones paused, sensing movement. Luma whispered urgently, pointing toward a maintenance hatch above. Without hesitation, she climbed. Aaron followed, clumsily but determined. They reached a higher corridor, narrow and dark. The drones below made sharp noises, scanning every corner. Luma and Aaron moved silently, careful not to attract attention. The station seemed alive, watching, waiting. Aaron looked at Luma. She was small and fierce, a survivor in a world that had tried to erase her. He felt something shift inside him. He was no longer just a human scout. He was part of something bigger now, a partnership, fragile but real. They stopped at a junction. Luma pressed her ear to the wall, listening. Aaron crouched beside her, following her lead. Her hands were steady, even as her eyes darted around. She whispered again. Aaron caught a single word, repeated like a warning. From below, the drones activated fully. Lights blazed through the cracks. Luma grabbed Aaron's hand and pulled him forward. They ran through the narrow corridors, twisting and turning, barely avoiding the scanning machines. Finally, they reached a hidden chamber. The door was old, heavy, and almost sealed. Luma pushed it open and they slipped inside. The hum of the drones faded slightly. The room was dim but safe for now. Luma dropped to the ground, gasping for breath. Aaron sat beside her, pressing his hand to his wound. He looked at her and she met his gaze. No words were needed. They understood each other. Both had survived alone. Both had been tested by a world that had no mercy. For a long moment, silence fell. The only sounds were the faint hum of distant machinery and their breaths. Aaron finally spoke, slowly and carefully, pointing at her, then himself. He said, Luma. Then Aaron. He repeated the gesture several times, ensuring she understood he meant no harm. Luma studied him. Finally, she nodded. It was a small motion, but it meant acceptance. He was not a threat. Not yet, at least. The hum outside grew again, louder. The drones would not stay away for long. Luma stood and motioned for Aaron to follow. Together, they moved deeper into the station, searching for a safer place. Every shadow was a threat. Every sound was a warning. As they navigated the corridors, Aaron noticed old symbols etched into the walls. Luma paused to touch them, tracing lines with her fingers. She whispered names, memories, fragments of a life long gone. Aaron watched, fascinated by her connection to this place. They came to another room larger with remnants of old furniture and equipment. Luma pointed to a corner, indicating it as a safe spot. Aaron nodded, sliding into the space carefully. They settled, catching their breath. From their hiding spot, they could see the drones moving below, scanning tirelessly. Luma pressed her hand against Aaron's arm, silent communication that it was dangerous to stay. He understood. They waited, hearts pounding, minds alert. The ruins around them seemed alive, holding secrets and dangers from a past they could barely understand. Yet in the midst of fear, something else lingered: trust. Aaron looked at Luma. For the first time, he realized that survival was not just about fighting or escaping. It was about connection. Even on a moon abandoned by all, they had found each other. The drones eventually moved on, searching elsewhere. Luma relaxed slightly but did not let her guard down. Aaron did the same. They had survived this encounter, but they both knew it was only the beginning. Hours passed. The station remained quiet, except for the faint hum of distant machinery. Luma showed Aaron where they could find water and food scraps. He helped patch her small injuries from navigating the ruins. They shared what little they had, learning that cooperation was more powerful than solitude. Night fell, though on this moon, night was a matter of lighting and shadows. Luma and Aaron stayed close, watching for any movement. Their unspoken bond grew stronger with each passing hour. Trust, tentative but real, formed in the silence. Finally, exhaustion took them. They rested in the hidden chamber, one close to the other, alert but calm. The station was still alive, but for now it did not threaten them. Aaron drifted to sleep, thinking of the dangers outside. Luma watched him, thinking of the dangers she had faced alone for so long. For the first time, she felt a glimmer of something new: hope. Somewhere in the vast emptiness of space, a human had arrived. And for the first time in many cycles, Luma realized she was not entirely alone. The next day, Luma led Aaron through a series of tunnels that branched from the main station. The walls were jagged, and the ground was uneven, but she moved confidently. Aaron struggled to keep pace, his wound slowing him, but he followed without complaint. The hum of the station below them was faint now, yet he could feel the vibrations under his feet, a constant reminder of hidden dangers. Luma stopped at a wide opening that overlooked a canyon outside. The moon's light reflected off jagged rocks, creating eerie shadows. She pointed to a large, broken ship that lay wedged between cliffs. Fragments of its metal hull glinted like silver teeth in the dim light. Aaron nodded. He understood that these remnants of the past were dangerous. He also sensed that they might hold answers. He asked a question in his language, but Luma shook her head. She didn't have the words for him, but her gestures told him to be careful. They descended into the canyon, moving quickly and quietly. Luma showed him how to use natural cover, how to avoid debris that could trigger old traps left by the station's defense systems. Aaron followed her instructions, learning from someone who had survived alone for years. As they moved, Luma explained through gestures and short phrases that her people had been attacked by a powerful alliance from another world. Her language was old, but Aaron caught the words for danger, war, and loss. The story painted a picture of destruction and fear that she had endured. The canyon ended at a large, open area where the remnants of the attack still lay. Machines and weapons, broken and rusted, were scattered across the ground. Luma paused, scanning the horizon. Her eyes were sharp and cautious. She knew that the old enemies might not be far. She had survived because she had learned to anticipate danger, but she had never faced humans before. Aaron examined the ruins with fascination. To him, this was a treasure trove of history, a lost chapter of the galaxy. But he also realized the danger. Every broken machine could be a threat. Every shadow could conceal an enemy. He looked at Luma and understood why she had learned to live alone. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the canyon floor. Dust rose from cracks in the rocks. Luma grabbed Aaron's arm and pulled him to the side. From the shadows, small, autonomous drones emerged. They were old defense systems, still active, programmed to attack intruders. Aaron's heart raced. Luma moved first, ducking behind a rock. She pointed to another path that led around the drones. Aaron followed her quickly, his mind racing to understand her silent instructions. The drones scanned the area, their red lights piercing the darkness, but they did not detect the two survivors. They moved through the canyon, hiding and running, until they reached a small, hidden cave. Inside, the temperature was slightly warmer and the air was still. Luma leaned against the wall, exhausted. Aaron sat nearby, pressing his wound. They had survived another encounter, but the danger was far from over. Luma retrieved a small device from her bag. It was a communication tool from her people, old but still functional. She showed it to Aaron, pointing to symbols and screens. Aaron studied it, trying to understand. It was a map, showing locations of hidden stations and old defense points. Luma gestured to one far away and then to Aaron, indicating that they might need to go there for safety. As they rested, Aaron asked questions about her people. Luma used gestures and drawings in the dirt to explain. Her people had been explorers, scientists, and guardians. They had knowledge that the Alliance feared. The Alliance had destroyed their home to eliminate that threat. Luma was the last survivor, hidden until now. Aaron listened, realizing the weight of her story. He had seen war before, but not like this. Not against an entire civilization, erased from existence. He felt a protective instinct rise within him. She had survived alone for so long, and he would not leave her now. The cave offered temporary safety, but the hum of the drones outside reminded them that time was short. Luma indicated that they needed to move again. Aaron helped her gather supplies and they prepared to leave the cave. She showed him another path, one that would take them to an old transport hub. If they could reach it, they might find equipment and shelter. As they traveled, the terrain grew rougher. Sharp rocks and deep fissures made the journey dangerous. Aaron helped Luma over difficult sections, and she guided him with precise gestures, indicating where to step. Their trust in each other grew with every obstacle. Hours passed, and the landscape changed. They reached a plateau with a view of a massive crater. In the center was the remains of a station, partially buried. Luma's eyes widened. She had not been there for cycles, and she remembered its secrets. She gestured to Aaron, showing a hidden entrance. Before they could move, a shadow fell across the plateau. Drones were descending from above, more than they had seen before. The hum grew into a roar, and red lights scanned the area. Luma grabbed Aaron's arm, pulling him toward the hidden entrance. They slipped inside, narrowly avoiding detection. The interior was dark and twisted, with old corridors leading deeper into the structure. Luma moved quickly, her knowledge of the place guiding them. Aaron followed, injured but determined to stay close. Inside, they found remnants of old technology, some still operational. Luma showed Aaron how to activate a small generator to provide light. They explored cautiously, avoiding areas that seemed unstable. The station held secrets of the past, and Luma knew where the traps were. Suddenly, a sound echoed through the halls. A voice, a machine. They froze. Luma held up a hand, signaling silence. The sound grew closer. Aaron gripped a metal pipe for defense, but Luma's eyes were calm. She knew what they were facing. It was a patrol drone scanning the corridors. Luma gestured to a side passage and they moved quickly, holding their breath. The drone passed without noticing them. Aaron exhaled quietly, relieved. Luma smiled faintly, the first sign of emotion he had seen from her. They reached a larger room, partially destroyed, with signs of habitation from long ago. Luma pointed to a corner, indicating it as a temporary safe spot. Aaron sat, still pressing his wound. He looked at her, grateful for her guidance. They had survived another day, but the danger was relentless. Luma showed him more of the station's secrets: hidden storage, access to water systems, and old energy cells. Aaron helped her organize supplies, realizing how clever and resourceful she was. Together they could survive, at least for a while. As night approached, they settled in the safe spot. Luma watched the corridor, alert for any movement. Aaron leaned against the wall, exhausted but aware. They had come to understand each other without words. Survival had forced them into cooperation, and trust was slowly building. The station was still alive around them. Machines hummed, lights flickered, and distant sounds echoed through the halls. The danger had not passed, but Luma and Aaron had learned to navigate it together. They were no longer alone. Each had found a companion, and for now, that was enough. Outside, the drones continued their search. The canyon, the ruins, and the old stations held secrets and dangers that would challenge anyone who entered. Luma and Aaron had survived by trusting instincts, knowledge, and each other. And though the path ahead was uncertain, they knew they would face it together. As they drifted into uneasy rest, Luma allowed herself a small thought. Maybe, just maybe, she was not entirely abandoned. And Aaron, watching her quietly, realized that humanity's courage was more than survival. It was the willingness to protect even when everything seemed lost. Aaron and Luma moved cautiously through the remains of the old station. The air was thick with dust and silence, broken only by the occasional hum of old machinery. Every step they took echoed through the corridors, reminding them that the ruins were still alive, still watching. Luma led the way, her small figure navigating the debris with ease. Aaron followed, careful not to make noise. His side still ached, but he refused to let it slow him. He had survived many challenges, but nothing like this. The way Luma moved, knowing every path and danger, amazed him. They reached a larger hall, once a control center. Broken panels and scattered equipment filled the space. Luma gestured to a console, partially intact. With careful movements, she activated it, making the lights flicker. The terminal hummed to life, displaying a map of the surrounding ruins and distant stations. Aaron watched closely, trying to understand. Luma pointed to a hidden area far away, signaling that it might hold supplies or safety. He nodded, understanding the urgency. They could not stay long. Drones patrolled nearby, and the ruins themselves seemed to be shifting, responding to their presence. Suddenly, a deep rumble shook the floor. Dust fell from the ceiling. Luma pressed against a wall, her eyes scanning. Aaron's heart raced. The sound grew louder. From the shadows emerged more drones, old defense systems activated by movement. Their red eyes glowed, scanning for intruders. Luma grabbed Aaron's arm, pulling him behind a fallen console. They stayed low, barely breathing. The drones moved methodically, their sensors sweeping the area. Aaron noticed how calm Luma remained. Her eyes were sharp, her movements precise. He realized she had faced these dangers countless times before. The drones moved past them, unaware of their presence. Luma signaled for Aaron to follow. They slipped through a side corridor, leading to an old maintenance hatch. Luma climbed through first, showing him the way. Aaron followed, careful not to dislodge any debris that could alert the machines below. The corridor led them to a hidden chamber, deep within the station. The air was cooler here, and the hum of machinery was faint. Luma checked the entrances, ensuring they were safe. Aaron sat down, pressing his wound. He was tired but alert, aware that danger was never far. Luma retrieved a small, ancient device from her bag. It was a communication tool, still functional, used by her people long ago. She pointed to symbols on the screen, showing locations of other hidden stations and defensive points. Aaron studied the map, realizing the importance. These were not just ruins, they were strategic points that could change the balance of power if used correctly. They spent hours exploring the chamber, finding supplies, water, and energy cells. Luma showed Aaron how to operate old equipment, teaching him what had kept her alive all these years. He listened carefully, absorbing every detail. Trust had grown between them, silent but strong. As night approached, the station's hum grew louder. Drones moved in the distance, their search patterns relentless. Luma and Aaron prepared to move again. They packed what they could carry and made their way through the corridors, staying low and using hidden paths. They reached a larger area, partially destroyed, that had once served as a hub. Luma pointed to a corner, signaling it as a temporary safe spot. Aaron followed, placing supplies carefully. They rested, catching their breath, aware that the danger had not passed. From their hiding spot, they could see drones moving below. The red lights swept across the area, scanning tirelessly. Luma pressed her hand against Aaron's arm, signaling caution. He understood without words. Survival required patience and vigilance. Hours passed. The ruins were silent again, but both remained alert. Luma retrieved a small device to provide light. Aaron helped organize supplies, learning more about the station and its hidden systems. They were a team now, relying on each other's strengths. As they settled for the night, Luma allowed herself a thought she had not had in years. Maybe she was not completely alone. Aaron, watching her quietly, realized that humanity's courage was not just survival. It was the willingness to protect even when everything seemed lost. Outside, the drones continued their patrols. The station was alive, dangerous, and full of secrets. But for the first time, Luma and Aaron faced it together. Each step they took was a step into an uncertain future, but they were no longer alone. The bond between them was fragile, yet it was real. And in a universe that had tried to erase her, Luma felt a glimmer of hope for the first time in cycles. The ruins around them were silent, yet danger lingered in every shadow. Luma and Aaron moved cautiously through the large hallways, aware that the old drones could return at any moment. Every step was calculated, every sound analyzed. They had survived so far by trusting each other and relying on knowledge that the other did not possess. Luma led Aaron to a central chamber, partially intact, that had once been a command center. Broken consoles lined the walls and debris littered the floor. She gestured for him to help her clear a space where they could rest and plan. Aaron nodded, pressing his wound, still sore but determined. As they worked, Luma retrieved a small device from her bag. It was a remnant of her people's technology, still operational. She activated it, and a holographic map of the station and surrounding areas appeared. Aaron studied it carefully. Paths, hidden chambers, and old defense systems were visible. This knowledge gave them a temporary advantage. Suddenly, the hum of machinery grew louder. The station responded to their presence, activating old defense systems. Drones, more numerous than before, began to move through the halls, their sensors scanning for intruders. Luma's eyes narrowed. She had anticipated this, and she quickly led Aaron to a side passage that would take them deeper into the structure. The passage was narrow and winding, but it provided cover. Luma moved with confidence, and Aaron followed, learning to trust her instincts completely. They emerged in a hidden section of the station that had once served as a storage area. Supplies, energy cells, and old equipment were scattered about. Luma gestured for Aaron to gather what he could carry. As they prepared to move again, a loud crash echoed through the ruins. A drone patrol had detected movement elsewhere and was coming closer. Luma grabbed Aaron's hand, pulling him toward a concealed entrance she knew well. They slipped inside just as the drones passed, unaware of their presence. The hidden chamber offered temporary safety. Luma pressed her hand against Aaron's arm, signaling him to stay alert. Together, they examined the area, looking for tools and equipment that could help them survive. Aaron found a small weapon, ancient but functional, and handed it to Luma. She nodded in understanding, checking its operation with skilled hands. Hours passed. The danger outside remained, but inside the chamber they could plan. Luma indicated another station on her device, one far enough away to offer safety and resources. Aaron studied the map and nodded. It was risky, but it was their best option. They rested briefly, knowing the journey ahead would be difficult. Luma allowed herself a thought she had not had in cycles. She was not entirely alone. Aaron, watching her quietly, felt a similar realization. The universe was vast, often harsh, but together they could face it. Before dawn, they moved again. The corridors were treacherous and the ruins seemed to shift around them. Drones patrolled relentlessly, but Luma's knowledge guided them. Aaron followed her lead, protecting her when necessary and learning to anticipate dangers she had faced alone for years. Finally, they reached a large chamber with a reinforced exit. Luma activated a mechanism, revealing a passage to the surface. They climbed carefully, emerging under the dim light of the distant planet. The landscape was jagged and harsh, but free from immediate threat. Aaron looked at Luma. Her small frame stood strong against the alien landscape. She had survived alone for so long, yet now she was not alone. He realized that humanity's courage was not just about surviving, it was about protecting and standing by each other even in impossible situations. Luma scanned the horizon, her eyes reflecting the light of distant stars. She had been abandoned, lonely, and forgotten, but she was found now. With Aaron at her side, she felt hope stir within her. The bond they had formed, fragile yet real, would carry them forward. They set off together, moving toward the distant station that promised safety and resources. Every step was careful but confident. They had survived the ruins, the drones, and the memories of destruction. Now they faced the future together. As they walked, Luma glanced at Aaron and smiled faintly. It was a small gesture, but it carried the weight of trust and companionship. Aaron returned the gesture. For the first time in cycles, Luma felt that she could look ahead without fear. The ruins faded behind them, dangerous and silent once more. Ahead lay an uncertain journey, but with each other they would not face it alone. In a universe that had tried to erase her, Luma had found a human who would stand by her. And in that moment, she knew she was no longer abandoned. She was no longer lonely.